for Spirit Talk podcast with our resident astrologer, Kathy Biehl. We're doing a political astrology show. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. And I think it was just 2 weeks ago, right? It was just 2 weeks ago. Oh, I have mine too.
Red, white, and blue stars, everybody.
Let's put them on. Yeah. On Friday, when I finished up PNN, the last 3 cards that I pulled said, we're going to get some really good news. Some things come in strange packages, right? It's like the last thing I would have said was that Biden was going to pass the torch.
Same here.
So before we get started, how have you been?
All over the place.
Where have you been? I should have asked.
Yeah, you know how, I don't know if anyone has experienced, like you get a brush with a sharp knife and you just kind of look at it and you're sort of in shock, and then it takes a while for you to have your reaction to it. That's how I've been.
Well, I hope that's not literal.
No.
Okay. Because that did happen to me like several
Oh, it's happened to me before, but not this. No.
Yeah. You look at it and you're like, this is really going to bleed a lot. So, yeah, you're just looking at it like, okay, what do I do with this?
Well, that wasn't my first reaction. My first reaction is, I don't like this reality. But then I realized, oh, no, this is good.
Well, here's the thing. I was so angry. I think most of us, or maybe all of us, were so angry that the Democrats were like, that's it. They were just talking like, we called them the feckless Dems. They were just talking like, that's it. We give up, we quit. That's what it, because they weren't saying we think that Kamala Harris would do a better job. Right? I didn't hear any mention of Kamala in place of Joe Biden.
I didn't hear any mention of anyone in place of him.
We were coming unglued because it was like, okay, so now it's going to be who knows who, ? Against the convicted felon, rapist, and all the rest of the crimes he's committed. So that's why I was just off the rails. And plus, the best president in history, as far as I'm concerned, and probably as far as a lot of people are concerned, best president in history, most competent, most experienced, knocked it out of the park where it shouldn't have been able to even hit the ball.
Yeah, I've been saying I feel like he kept the world from catching fire.
I feel like he helped the world from going into a very dark, desperate, dangerous situation. Agreed. And all they were talking about on mainstream media was Trump, and they were, for how many years they ignored the historic achievements of the Biden administration, just like they weren't happening. Like
such is the plight of a 12th house sun. People who have the sun in the 12th house often they're just weirdly obscure. Doesn't mean they're not effective.
How do you know where your sun is?
By your chart.
I thought the sun was always in the first house, but that shows you how much I know.
Oh, no.
I'm not an astrologer.
But you see, isn't your rising sign the same as your, no, it isn't. No, your sun may be in the first house because of the way the houses work out in your chart, but no. I get the 12th house sun problem. I also have one, and you just kind of weirdly like, I'm just invisible. It makes no sense. Yeah, and he's got that.
Yeah.
But okay. I want to stress, I have consistently been saying I would never, and I'll say to anybody, never bet against a Scorpio in a cage match. Never.
I agree.
The way this man is playing this, and people have been coming to me and going, oh, well, now you have to redo your forecasts. No, my forecasts are still accurate. Had it been Trump versus Biden, the astrology said Biden would win. Whatever his role is, he is going to be a major actor in our country for at least the next 12 months. Huge power. Watch what he does. Watch what he does before he gets out of office, and he'll continue to be a leader and a statesman and fighting.
Yeah, and at first I was thinking, before the news broke, I was just kind of tossing around ideas in my head, and I thought, well, it could be Harris with Biden running for VP, but he already did that, and I don't even know if that's like legal.
Oh, it would be legal, but given the astrology, he's going to be a factor at the convention. He's going to be a huge factor in the election, and he continues to be a factor into the next year. He is not going to just slink and stay quiet.
I think he's
have been
a
thinking,
workaholic.
Yeah, well, also he's got in his solar return chart, he has Mars, planet of push, in the ninth house of policy and law, pushing up against his midheaven, which is huge action, leadership role, massive leadership role. He is not going to just go to Rehoboth Beach and ride his bicycle up and down the boardwalk. No.
Well, yeah. I think he's a workaholic. I don't think that's a negative thing. I just think that that's his path, that's his purpose, and somebody's needed in that kind of a position, helping the United States, and so he wouldn't be comfortable stopping.
No, but I'm saying this year, his solar return energy is being very, very, very active as a leader fighting for this country.
Right.
So it's not the fact that he's going to be a lame duck president. Nah. Watch what he does. I've been saying if he had a second term that he would out FDR. Watch what he pushes through.
Yeah.
Before
more
January 20th.
He's more freed up now too. He's more freed up because he doesn't have to worry about impressing the Democrats that are scrutinizing his every word and wondering if he's worthy. And
I would imagine that he got a lot of deals behind the scenes before he made this announcement.
What do you mean? Like,
given what the energy was astrologically, and I do want to address what was going on last week, but given the energy that was going on astrologically, he didn't just he of his own accord decided on the timing of this, but I am certain he got things in place before. He got agreements. He got concessions. Look at what happened in the first 30 hours after his announcement. She got all of the delegates she needed.
Right.
More than. And look at the fundraising and look at the people who've come out. He got concessions. He got deals. He got things in place. I am sure of it.
Yeah, it was incredible. And also it feels like, I don't think we talked about you looking at the United States chart today, but maybe we could. It feels like, boy, what a buildup of, are we going to see justice already or not? Like, how long do we have to wait? This should happen in 2021. We should have had some kind of prosecution of Trump. I mean, he's a convicted felon. It's like, how long is this just going to go on unchecked? And when I ever on my Sunday emergency PNN had this like, wow, revelation moment. She's a prosecutor. He's a convicted felon. That it just seemed like it was planned.
Well, August there's a bunch of stuff happening in a cluster that is affecting her, Biden, the DNC, Trump, Vance, the US, all in one huge cluster. And I'll just say right now, astrologically, I don't want to talk about these guys a whole lot, but let's just say astrologically, Vance has some things on the surface that are like Trump. He has the same ascendant. His ascendant falls in line with Trump's Mars. So that means he and Trump have the same angles. That means things in the sky are hitting them from the same directions.
Interesting.
Last week, there was this activation of what Uranus in Taurus means. Mars joined it, and then all hell broke loose.
Right.
I have things to say about that. In August, this configuration with Uranus locks into the Aquarius full moon, which happens on the U.S. sun, and it happens across the partnership, the self and partnership angles of Trump's chart and Vance's chart, and the pressure point is an explosion publicly. I'll be stunned I will not be surprised if Vance, one of them, is off the bill in 3 weeks. I will not be surprised.
I read on it the other night, and I saw Vance going?
It would fit completely. It would fit completely with this. So, can I briefly explain to people what we just went through? Because it's pretty major.
Please. Well, I guess we have to start with 2 weeks ago. We did a show on the 9th. The attempted assassination was on the 13th. Yeah.
So, here is what I always have. I have a podcast every week, and I always have like a really snippy, really short a squib for what the week is about that's written. What I said last week is wild cards, monkey wrenches, devil may care strikes. Foundations are disintegrating. Choose kindness and take out your trash. So, what happened? Devil may care strikes. What happened was Mars, as Mars was meeting Uranus, Mars making things happen, hitting the planet of sudden change up in the highest part of Trump's chart, and it set off. It immediately squared. It was the demand for action, forced action, with his Mars and his public persona. So there's an assassination attempt, and all week long, this was happening in Biden's House of Health, and his like daily activities, his house of service, and it was opposing his son in the 12th house. So he comes down with COVID, he gets ill, he retreats, and a political assassination is happening again and again and again against him. So the two political candidates had assassination attempts.
So you mean a media or assassination or a health? It's not like it didn't kill either of them, but
no. But I'm saying somebody shot a bullet in Trump's vicinity, and challenges came at Biden that were attempting to assassinate his political career.
Right.
I mean, it's just bizarre that it happened. I thought it was going to be worse for Trump because a square is a much they're both hard aspects, but a square is much more something punching you. An opposition is more like, oh God, challenge. What next?
Right.
So that was one thing that one aspect of it all. And then we had the Capricorn full moon this weekend. Now, if you pay close attention, you might have noticed we had 2 Capricorn full moons this year. There was one in June at the very beginning of the sign, and then this one this weekend. And it's at 29 degrees Capricorn, the very last degree of the sign. This is the sign that Pluto has been in since 2008. It's the sign of the U.S. Pluto. So we've been seeing since 2008 rot and disintegration and collapse of our institutions with this. And right now, this moon is teeing up the final 2.5 months of Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto will return to this degree beginning of September, and it'll be there until the middle of November. So this full moon was like an emotional clearing, getting the way for the final bit of what this time from 2008 has been. And there's one other piece. It was also conjunct right next to Pluto at the very beginning of Aquarius. So this is what I said. The flavor, very short. This flavor of full moon is stern and calculated, lighting up the bottom line from the perspective of the daddy provider end of the Cancer Capricorn dichotomy. When the moon is in Capricorn, the sun's in Cancer. What's surfacing now looms as monumental, and in fact, it all is. This moon comes up with a profound sense of wrapping up and finality. That's due to the double whammy from Pluto, the agent of unavoidable change. It's operating here as a doorway to the past as well as to the future. So we have a Scorpio ruled by Pluto handing off someone with a 52-year career, part of the Capricorn establishment, bucking the oligarchs in his party, the big donors, and handing off to somebody who immediately galvanized huge networks of people.
Right.
So this is a bridge full moon. And there were some other things going on with the way it hit Biden's chart. Anybody might have noticed a few weeks ago when he was getting hounded with, are you going to leave? And he said, I'll go if the Lord Almighty tells me to. There was an aspect in his chart that makes me wonder if at Mass this weekend, if he didn't hear, it's time, Joe. Because he goes daily.
It's time to take a break. Probably. I think he's really close to the Pope, too.
Well, yeah.
He might have put in a call to the Vatican.
Who knows?
I'm relieved for him that he can still work and not have the media. Oh, I'm still so angry at the media, just bashing him constantly and never giving him credit. So at least he doesn't have to put up with that.
Well, now all the nonsense that was being projected onto him, there's no one to look at it except the source. And in fact, a friend of mine, I've been getting some really wonderful things from people, and a friend of mine sent a fascinating comment, and that is, it feels like there was a chaos god on our backs who suddenly discovered that there was a better, more fun target standing right next to us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how all that conversation, all that negative conversation about being too old and having dementia and senile or whatever goes now right to Trump. So when you look at Trump's chart around this time, what did that launch for him? What did this second Capricorn full moon launch for him? What did that set something up for Trump this past weekend?
It's really much more of what Uranus did and what's coming in August for Trump.
Okay, so let's back up because it was Mars. Wait.
Yeah, Mars, planet of push, activated Uranus in Taurus in his most public part of his chart. Now, that Uranus has been very close to his midheaven, which is the line down the middle of the chart. The top of it is your career and your public reputation, and the bottom of it is where you are at home in the world. And so this has been blown up and destabilized for a long time. And as it happened, that was in an opening aspect with the signature for his for how he makes his money in his chart, which is a conjunction between Saturn and Venus. And I say it in that order because that's the order they are in his chart. And so to open the door for, Elon Musk and huge amounts of money, and him suddenly being beholden to these very, very rich chaos figures who shoved a VP choice down his throat.
Right.
And it was also squaring his Mars. So there was like a direct attack on him. And this gets reactivated in a huge way around on the 19th of August. And so that's when something's going to blow relationship wise for both him and Vance. And additionally, at the same time, that's when the door closes in on him
in August.
And it closes in with the help of a woman. Now, I have thought, and this would fit with Judge Chutkan holding hearings. However, the closing in by a woman also completely, the thing that's doing that locks beautifully into Harris's chart. So for those of you who are still freaking, people have been saying, how can he still be lucky? How can he still be lucky?
Oh, I don't think this is lucky at all. And
he's in an Iron Maiden, and next month is when he realizes that it's coming.
Mars went into Gemini over the weekend too, right?
Yes.
That's
And it moved on to, so when Mars moved into Gemini, it made a an unbroken flow, like a round robin of energy in Biden's chart. Well, it made a round robin. It was in an unbroken flow with Pluto in Aquarius, so there was something there, just easily ushering in the next stage. And in Biden's chart, it also made this unbroken flow to his planet of inspiration in his career house. And that's why I say he prayed and he heard. I would not be surprised if he actually knew in his bones that it was his spiritual duty at this point to do that.
Yeah, and I think that that's how he has conducted his life since the beginning. And I am much, much, much more comfortable and calm with somebody in a leadership position that I know does that. You know, like Trump pretends.
Years ago, I was in a really protracted, god-awful month-long, month-long will contest, or maybe it went on two. It's ridiculous. And the judge, when the judge had to make a decision, a ruling on something, he'd leave the courtroom and go back to his chambers. And I found out later he was praying on each decision, and I actually felt a whole lot better with that. Like,
right. Yeah.
Okay, you're making sure you're going to do the right thing here. Excellent.
Yeah, whether you believe in a higher power or not, just to be a person who knows to just stop and just, okay, I'm going to reflect, I'm going to just be quiet, and I'm going to just tap into whatever, my inner wisdom or whatever. I mean, we start our Grassroots of Democracy meetings with 5 minutes of silence, just silence. And every time we do that, I think, what if they did that in Congress?
Oh, boy.
I mean, well, how about if the Democrats did that? I mean, the Republicans, we don't know who they're praying to. Sometimes I wonder if it's the opposite.
Is it Mammon? I forget. Anyway.
Yeah, I've had people sending me emails about that, the dark side. So going into this new, really bombastic change in a good way. And by the way, you did call it that. Like last time we met, you said something explosive was going to happen. Then we had the assassination attempt. On Sunday also was Guru Purnima. I don't know how to say that properly, but anyway, it was a very auspicious day in the cosmos, because for thousands and thousands of years it's been a time that's in the Hindu religion, they honored the guru as being a time of acknowledging that you have expanded and you are blossoming, and this is a time of new growth and new change. And boy, it just really fit. And it happened, the same time the full moon was happening. And so I think this ushers in the era of the female, like the grace of the divine feminine. We've been saying all along, I think you've been saying it, I've been saying it repeatedly, the women are going to take Trump down. And the men that are good and not misogynist and that respect the feminine will help.
Well,
all the way.
I have something interesting to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a few years since I have looked closely at Harris's chart. I looked at her solar return recently, but not her chart specifically. That Mars-Uranus conjunction that happened last week happened on top of her Jupiter. Exploded open possibilities for her. That's thing one. And she has Jupiter in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to bring her up was this business about the feminine. I mentioned that at the same time as the Aquarius full moon on the 19th of August, when the DNC starts, that there's this thing that's closing in on Trump, and it involves Jupiter, which expands everything, being in this forced relationship with Saturn in his house of allies and open enemies, Saturn being the court, blah, blah, blah. So Venus in the sky is going to be opposite Saturn, Venus in Virgo. So a woman and the court and a challenger maybe is going to be part of what gets him. Well, in her chart, she has Venus at exactly the location, exactly where Venus is going to be on August 19th when this locks in. So not only, but she's going to be having her Venus return, and more importantly, she has a signature that a lot of people born in the mid 60s have for being change agents. She has the planet Uranus, which is radical change, conjunct Pluto, complete and utter metamorphosis, really close together in the signs of Virgo. That's where this conjunction took place, kind of moving around for a few years. And her Venus is right there too, meaning that she's a change agent for improving women issues. Key to her, women.
Yeah.
Women. What she's been talking about over the last year going around the country, she's been talking about women's health care. She's been talking about abortion as health care. And this particular lineup that's happening in August, that's squeezing Trump, is going to happen again in December at a slightly different address. The planets aren't going to be quite in the same place. And it's going to happen on Christmas Eve. Well, the second time it happens, Saturn is going to be exactly opposite Uranus in her chart, meaning that she is directly tied into both of these Jupiter-Saturn squares, the one in August, the one in December, and in both of them. And the first one, she is a major component in bringing stability to all the running around and nonsense. And this is going to blow up Trump's good luck. She's part of it.
Are you sure?
And then in December, please ring the bell. In December,
better than the truck noise.
In December, there's going to be something that's like radical, change oriented with, and she will be a component of that as well. And the one in December heals a massive wound for her, a massive lifelong wounding of being an underdog, feeling the pain of the victim. This is someone who really does get what happens to disadvantaged populations. Honestly, I looked at her chart a few years ago in a long course that I had about women in power, and we looked at women who were in leadership positions in countries all over the world. And I thought this is someone who really has a lot to offer. But I could see that she has a role with the U.S. because she directly ties to the moon in the Declaration of Independence chart, and that's a marker. A lot of people who occupy the White House or who have important national positions contact the U.S. moon. Biden's North Node contacts the U.S. moon. His path of destiny fits with it, but her Saturn is right there. Her Saturn, her embodiment of maturity and wisdom and leadership. It's just, and so she will be a stabilizing force, which is kind of hard to imagine given the level of just from an intellectual viewpoint about the level of misogyny and racism in this country. But look at what look at what she did in her first 30 hours as a candidate. She got more than enough delegates and just blew out fundraising. And wait till the single cat ladies come after. J.D. Vance said that only single cat ladies were going to vote for her.
Really be repeating that?
Oh, no, because that's like an invitation. Taylor Swift will come on board with that one. There's a photo of her on a magazine cover holding her cat.
It's No, but it's as bad as the Karen thing. I mean, anyone who's named Karen really suffered from that. I mean, what JD Vance is referring to is older women who like don't have any children and only have 2 cats.
I know plenty of them. Watch what they do.
But he means it as an insult.
Yeah, well, Brandon was meant as an insult too, and look at what's happened.
Yeah, those "Let's Go Brandon" flags, though, they really, really, really upset me. They still do.
Yeah, but they're a dark Brandon mugs. I mean, he actually is.
Yeah.
He actually claimed the. Okay, fine. Well, anyway, dark Brandon's coming out, and the single cat ladies are coming out.
I don't like good people being bashed. But as far as Kamala goes, I really just throwing in some mediumship here. She was really good friends with Beau Biden. They were really close.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. I think he's part of this.
Yeah, I just, because I do mediumship, I can just say, like, I have 100% certainty, but that's just me. I feel it. And I feel that Joe Biden's got his, deceased wife and baby, they're spirit guides. And he's got strong light, strong angels around him. And Kamala and Joe together are like, I think the reason a lot of psychics and astrologers saw Biden win was because they're the same. They move as, they're in lockstep. It's the Biden administration. They've moved as a unit. And so it is like a Biden win. And I'm calling it before it's even been called. But I consider this a win. I consider that this happened. It whooped the MAGAs upside the head. Their incompetence and stupidity is on full display. I can't even believe it. I try not to laugh about it. But you can't like go beyond, karma. Karma's a bitch. Karma's just a thing. What goes around comes around. And somebody just in terms of that question, I had a comment that said we shouldn't be asking who the VP pick is going to be, and that's just how we are.
Well, I didn't look at all of the ones that have been announced because apparently her campaign has asked for a small group of people to give information for vetting. But I looked at Mark Kelly and Josh Shapiro and Andy Bashir. And
Mark Kelly
and Josh Shapiro have national roles to play.
Yeah.
But Mark Kelly locks into her chart and to the U.S. chart and to the Constitution chart in a way that Josh Shapiro's doesn't. And that time in when the RNC convention starts.
You mean the DNC?
The DMC convention. He will. Yeah, he's going to have the same kind of. It's going to hit him in a similar way as it hits her. So I won't be surprised if I will not be surprised if he's on the ticket.
I feel really, really, really strongly about that. And not only psychically, but also because of one thing. Because of Gabby Giffords and the gun control issue that's got to be addressed. That's like, I mean, if she doesn't pick him, she would be foregoing an opportunity to put that like top of the ticket as an issue.
Well, also border.
Yeah, and look at how many people want gun reform, gun laws. It's like 80-90% of the American population. And he's been kind of a spokesperson for that because they have an organization. I know I get emails from Gabby Giffords. That was a long journey for her. And so he's kind of a spokesperson for gun laws, gun reform. Plus, he's a strong person, and he's a military guy, and he was an astronaut. I mean, he really.
Well, and also with Arizona, there's the whole border issue that he could be part of. Okay, so it's going to come from a swing state. It will be male. People said, "Oh, look at Gretchen Whitmer." I'm not going to waste my time. There's no way that this country is ready for 2 women on the ticket. I intellectually, I'm nervous about what this country is going to do to 1 woman on the ticket, but that's just.
We've already seen.
I'll park that
anyway, right?
Right. But I mean, Josh Shapiro has a lot to offer as well, and he may be playing a big role September could be a really big time for seeing what it is he's going to be doing. But Mark Kelly he just has a whole lot that is being activated, and good stuff coming at Christmas time for him as well. So he's got a role. Okay. He's got a big role. Whether he is the candidate or not, he has a role.
He feels ready. To me, it feels like he's like, okay, let's do this. Like how Kamala was when Joe picked her. I feel that from Mark Kelly really strongly. Josh Shapiro feels more like, just psychically, feels more like he's really got a lot going on in his state that, I mean, I'm sure he would take the position, but it just feels like he's engrossed in a lot in his state, and that would kind of put him, I think he's a little attached. But
let's look at one other thing about Mark Kelly, and that is he's currently a senator in a state with a Democratic governor. So if he goes, a Democrat will be appointed to fulfill his term.
Right. So that's
got to be important.
I think that would be a good pick. Let's just jump back to Trump, if we could. I have consistently received the information that he's not going to make it through the summer.
Well, this pile up that's going to happen around the 19th of August is going to pressure in a huge way the planet that rules his health. We've had this conversation. Uranus rules his house of health, and Uranus is very agitated, and there could be something incredibly sudden that happens. I know a number of people have been saying they see him actually falling, and well, he did fall with whatever happened in Pennsylvania, but I think that there's something else also.
Yeah, and I don't know what really happened to his ear, but despite what happened to his ear, I think he must have PTSD from that.
You would imagine.
He's never had anything even remotely close to that ever happen to him. He's lived his entire life in this protected bubble, and out of nowhere comes a bullet, and he won't have his medical records. Have we ever seen any of his medical records at all? Not the fake ones. They'll say he weighs 215. But we really haven't. Have we? Have we ever seen Trump's medical records?
Not to my knowledge.
I think they're hiding something major. Now that Kamala is going to be out on the campaign trail, she's going to be able to highlight all the Biden administration's achievements that the media never would. And the only reason that wouldn't come out is if they just don't cover her.
Going to be kind of hard.
That remains to be seen. I mean, because I'm doing a media blackout. Simon Rosenberg sent with his newsletter today a clip of Lawrence O'Donnell from last night. So I did watch it, and it's really good. I'm a huge fan of Lawrence O'Donnell. But are they just going to ignore the Biden administration's achievements? No, she's going to take them out, and she's going to put them on a platform and say, here's our platform. This is what we've done. So I'm seeing a Kamala Harris win. And it looks like you're seeing the likelihood.
Yeah, I ran a chart for when the election starts on November 5th, like when the first ballot is cast in that little town in New Hampshire. And I put it around her chart. I have 50 zillion.
What little town in New Hampshire does?
It's way, way, way high at the top.
Oh.
You don't know this? Hang on.
No, I should know this.
Really? No, you need to know.
I think I didn't
Dixville Notch.
Okay, I do remember hearing that.
And so Uranus is going to be on her Jupiter again. Jupiter is going to hit her North Node early next year. North Node, your path of destiny. Jupiter is going to cross her ascendant, and so that looks really, really good to me. On the day of the election, Mars is going to be in an energizing and challenging aspect to her Mercury. This woman is not going to mince words about anything.
No way.
There could be a period of time before we know what's happening. But this all looks like, yeah.
Let's just say it.
Looks good.
Let's just say it. Yeah, it feels like we had a miracle, right? I mean, which is really makes me feel good because, and I swear, I'm not calling it before it happens. It just, regardless of, like if we don't look at November at all, this is a hugely positive shift. And I even heard Terry told me that the numbers for Grassroots of Democracy just shot up of people that are signed up to be on the email list. And the people coming tonight has shot up. And you see what's happened with Kamala Harris. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to volunteer. People are just, let's go, right? And I've never seen the American people mobilize that fast.
I have this weird feeling, it like a timeline arrived ahead of schedule, because I really didn't think we were ready for a woman president at all.
Really, Hillary would have won. She won the popular vote, and Russia interfered. So we're there, and we elected Obama twice in a row. So
it still feels ahead of schedule, like it just arrived really, really quickly. I don't know if anybody out there watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, but there's one episode where Guinan, who runs 10 Forward, the Whoopi Goldberg's character who just knows things, and the Borg shows up in one story. The Borg is this huge collective, this thing that just kind of floats around. People get assimilated into it. Yeah. And the Borg shows up way ahead of schedule. And she keeps saying this wasn't supposed to happen now. And I kind of have that sense about this, but in a good way. And I was telling my same friend who made the comment about the chaos agent, he and I were having an exchange, and I said, this feels like we went through a tesseract. Who read A Wrinkle in Time as a kid? The Madeleine L'Engle book about the girl who goes time traveling through all of reality, trying to find her scientist father who has disappeared. And she is taught about, it's a wonderful theory. You can go from point A to point B, and it takes all this time, or you can wrinkle, and travel.
Yeah, and I read the book. I didn't read it. I haven't read it.
So I think it feels like we tessered. Like, oh, whoa,
it does, and that doesn't surprise me. I mean, if a physicist sat down and said, "Yeah, this definitely is happening," I would totally believe him, because the last time we had a show, we hadn't had an assassination attempt, and we hadn't had this big shakeup, and it's just, I was just thinking a little bit earlier, like, wait, I can remember like back in 2018, 2019, things, we were just kind of plugging along. As soon as 2020 hit, it was like, whoa, what's happening? It's like we got on the speed train, right? And it has not slowed down. That's why I've been for years now watching the news on the hour, by the hour, now on my Step, since I'm boycotting mainstream media. Something's happening, and scientifically, I've mentioned this before, I have read articles that say that scientists have proven that time is sped up by a fraction of a second. And even though that doesn't sound like a lot, it is. Cumulatively, that's a lot of speeding things up. I think that the vibrational frequency on the planet is accelerating, and that we're all feeling that. And it is hard to keep up. It's challenging for people that just like to go at a slower pace. It's like you gotta, keep up. You take those nutritional supplements. Let's keep going. But we are getting somewhere. And for the longest time, we felt like we were not getting anywhere in terms of seeing the same repeated thing with Trump. And it was just one after another after another. Aileen Cannon, speaking of Trump and all the things that he's gotten away with, I think she's about to be ousted. And I didn't ask you about that, but
I'm not comfortable with either. With I don't have there are two charts floating around. I have a solid birth time, but this time period that we're talking about in August, anything could happen, because think of all the women that are involved in various court things. And there's a women court legal connotation to this squeeze that's going to hit him. So I bet I will not be surprised if Judge Chutkan has an evidentiary hearing. I would not be surprised if something further happens in what we've not heard of in a long time, the appeal in the New York judgment for against the Trump org for all that money and shutting down his businesses, etc., with Letitia James. I would not be surprised if Tanya, I think her name is Tanya Chutkan, starts holding evidentiary hearings. I wouldn't be surprised if the 11th Circuit doesn't do something to canon at that point.
Right.
There are all these possibilities that could be part of it.
And doesn't it seem to you that since Kamala is now really in the spotlight and she's a prosecutor, I don't know, I just have this sense that the women judges and prosecutors feel like they have a big mama or something, you know, like it's like if she actually does become president, then it feels like our whole entire justice system gets its power back.
Well, and remember, not only was she she was a prosecutor in San Francisco for several terms, but she was on the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I believe she's the person who made Brett Kavanaugh cry.
And she also, what did she say to Bill Barr? Oh, about, so did the president pressure you or suggest? So do you remember that? She was grilling Bill Barr.
So many greatest hits of her on the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah. So, I mean, these judges and prosecutors that are female, they've seen what she can do. And this morning I was walking and I was thinking of at the start of this year, I had this theme and I had mentioned it, hope restored in 2024. And then the other one was, in 2024, we see justice more and more. Remember that?
And her Saturn is on the U.S. moon.
See?
Saturn, planet of justice on the U.S. moon.
It works. What about the I can't call them the Republican Party. What about the MAGAs? Mike Johnson is freaking out right now.
I haven't looked at his chart.
That's okay.
I will tell you. Okay. So more really wacky stuff. Just be braced. More really wacky stuff happening 2/3 of the way through August. And then in September, I believe that's when it happens, Uranus stations direct. Uranus is retrograde. So monkey wrenches, we're not done with the monkey wrenches in this election cycle.
And both parties?
Exactly. But the monkey wrench, it hits Harris's chart in a very positive and empowering way. In Trump's chart, in Vance's chart, it just blows things to smithereens. So
it's a karmic monkey wrench.
One possibility here is somebody getting knocked off the ticket in August and somebody else being thrown out of the race in September.
I gotta grab my pendulum.
Please do.
Okay, is Trump going to be knocked out of the race in August? I have a yes on that. Maybe before. I think he's going to get knocked out of the race. He's not a presidential candidate. He's a wackadoodle psychopath.
Well, you know, we're preaching to the choir here.
I know, but just in case anybody.
But now that there isn't the projection target, that makes it all the more interesting.
Then they're so mad about it. They don't have a plan B.
Do not bet against a Scorpio.
No, definitely true.
Never bet against a Scorpio. Mm-mm.
Who else did I tell you to read on? I have to finish up in 5 minutes, and I don't want to leave anyone.
Yeah, I looked at a couple of possible vice presidential candidates. I looked at Harris. I'll just say her chart fits in with the Declaration of Independence chart and also with the Constitution signing chart. So people who are out there going, oh, the country's going to fall apart. Well, I think she's bringing things back to what it's all about, like redefining the rule. Oh my God, the rule of law. Can you imagine the Supreme Court nominations? Can you imagine? I just want everyone to sit
We have
And
to.
imagine that you are in Samuel Alito's home on November 6th, and that you are in Clarence Thomas's home on November 6th, flies on wall, and
Yeah.
imagine what their reaction is going to be.
Smashing plates with ketchup on them
Oh,
again.
not those two. I don't think they're the plates, but I did a talk. I had a long talk on the immunity decision and the timeline for it getting rectified and what's coming for each of the justices in the next year or so. And I'll just say, Jackson is the storm. She's the coming storm.
Yeah.
And Alito and Thomas, I really think Alito and Thomas are going to, Thomas is going to be forced off. Who knows, or maybe have health as his cover. So Thomas very soon, Alito pretty soon, Roberts pretty soon, Amy Coney Barrett 3 years maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So
We're looking at
a new Supreme Court.
At a real rectification without people keep saying pack the court. Well, there's a potential problem with that, because if we pack it, guess what?
They can pack it.
They will pack it and they'll do worse than we do. So
right.
I'd rather just, can you imagine what a court that actually looks like the makeup of the United States would look like? I mean, that is one thing Biden very quietly did. His cabinet matched the makeup of this country.
Yeah, definitely.
Native American, gay, Black, lots of women. Yeah.
I really think people are going to just see him as a saint-like figure. I really, really, really do. And this whole thing gives me a shot in the arm, gives me faith, because we have been working on this, just intending, and we having grassroots of democracy, and and not just what we do, but what so many other pro-democracy organizations are doing. Like Midas Touch is knocking it out of the park. They're working so hard all the time, and so many other organizations, and we visualize and pray for the United States every week, more than once a week. We have our guided meditation for a healed America tonight. Somebody join, if anybody wants to join, grassrootsofdemocracy.com. And it just, I don't know, I just feel like we kept getting beat down and beat down and beat down, and it's not going to be easy street. We know that. I think we're well aware of that. It hasn't been easy street. We've been like in training.
Well,
but faith,
I'm sorry, go on.
Faith has come. We finally got some faith back.
And I want to point out, we got a taste this weekend of how quickly our culture can metamorphosize. Bam, in an instant. Do not think that we're out of the woods. When Pluto goes back into Capricorn at the beginning of November, we will have 2.5 months of the powers that be attempting to rearrange things, and the huge moneyed interests.
Yeah.
And just aside for that, you can't tell me that Mars conjunct Uranus in Taurus going against Biden wasn't a playing out of huge donors not wanting his tax plan.
Yeah, right.
It's got to be a piece of it. Anyway, so just know that Sauron and his army will be coming back in again, but we little hobbits, all the little elves, everybody together, banding together, all the weirdos, all banding together.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't feel like we're going to have our eyes closed. I think we know what we're up against. We know how sneaky and conniving and absolutely evil they can be. We witnessed those of us who could watch any amount of it, the fascist criminal convention. We know what they're capable of. So we're going to just keep on. We just have a little extra oomph now. Maybe a lot.
We do, because the chaos agent the chaos target is on somebody else's back now.
Yes. And karma is real. Damn it. Well, thank you. If anybody wants a reading from Kathy, we need 2 readings booked. Wait, do you have any?
I think we have one more. We have one more of these sessions in the hopper, but then I need more readings after that.
Okay, so everyone book a reading with Kathy. The information will be on the slideshow afterwards, right? I'm assuming we have a slideshow. Thank you, Terry, for your help.
Thank you, Terry.
Couldn't do it without you. And to book a reading, psychicannettedion.com. To join us tonight for our guided meditation for a healed America, which is every Tuesday, go to grassrootsofdemocracy.com and sign up there. And everything we do, you'll get a recording of afterwards, even if you can't make it to the meetings. All right. I think it's a wrap. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
I have sailed upon these waters, put my stakes into this land. There haven't been many others who can explore the way I can. I am a man of unconventionality, living on the edge of this reality. And I am here to lead the way. It is clear you'd be afraid. New world out there waits. New world out there waits. I have preached upon this mountain. People knew me well. I told them heaven can be found if we only look inside ourselves. I am a man of unconventionality, living on the edge of this reality. And I'm here to lead the way. It is clear you'd be afraid. New world out there waits. New world out there waits. We can follow all the others or discover a new way. Take some risks, find our courage on